This
full big
conference will now
sheets
be
of
recorded.
a leatherette. That way we've got plenty of material to run tests on. I can't preach on Facebook tests when we don't have the material, so
I
we
gotta see if I
stock up
have
on
some.
all the different materials.
I've got a little bit.
All right. Well,
Yeah, I could see if I
maybe
could do that.
I guess we'll see if some more people pop in. If anybody has anything, Jay, just let us know. Feel free to pop in. This is kind of a open, easy round table, kind of a relaxed atmosphere. I guess that's one way to put it, isn't it?
You do have some questions, but I'm in Dollar Tree right now, so give me a minute.
Sure, no worries.
Get some of them glasses.
That's what I'm here for.
And we're going to hold Grant to his promise.
Oh, that looks
Did
good.
he
And
say that he
and
was coming
Chris,
today?
he said that if Chris jumped on with him and looked at that Ethernet deal, that he would join right after. So
Aw,
we can hold the session hostage until they show up.
cool.
But yeah, if anybody's got a question or comment or anything like that, feel free to just jump right in.
Check your
And
mic before you do so,
yeah.
Teresa.
And I forgot what the topic was today.
You mentioned some red dot stuff, and
Focusing, that kind of thing. I mean, we could talk about what we're doing or what we see on the horizon for our support documentation, the formatting, where we have the short and sweet and the tutorial video at the top, and then the devil's in the details below the fold. That way,
hmm
So
that's the
I
way.
read one y'all just redid. I think it was on. Was it? I think it was on the Odin, and
are you
I
doing
got
it?
no. I'm sorry. It was on the Aurora. It was on it. It was talking about it was the how to reconfigure the autofocus.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
I'm looking through the steps, and I'm because I've dug into it, I know that the focal distance and whatnot. And then I got all the way to the bottom, and I'm pissed, and I'm like, okay, there it is. That's the breakdown that the what you focus versus where the actual mirrors are is the two different numbers.
I'd rather see the short, sweet, to the point, the video first, though. So
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at. We'll start with the most used or viewed ones, and try to revamp as we go. The good news is, well, uh, good news for, I don't know if it's good news or not. See, when the Nova V2 comes out, it's going to have the same HMI and DSP as the Bolt, the touchscreen, the GT5. So we're going to have to again generate documentation or update the older stuff, or at least incorporate both of those, because on our older stuff we've got even the super old controllers. I think some of them that didn't even have separate physical keys for the Z-axis. I think there's even some of those little tutorials floating around. So we're looking at revamping all that stuff as we go. So that'll be good.
And I had no complaints reading it. It read very well. It's just
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
just okay. Where
Well,
where is this? Where is this? Oh, there it is. And
yeah.
then I got
So a lot of those are, our premise has been if the question is asked X number of times, we're going to write an article about it. So a lot of times we're writing them as we're wanting to provide them to customers specific to the questions or the situation they have. And then we try to revamp it as we go. But we figure if we're going to type it, we might as well pop it up as we go along. And then that's why I like to call them all living documents, because we like to go through and review and modify. It's hard though. It's real hard to do. So
Look at you with the
you,
wrap, Lois. Sexy. Look at that. A
and
Halloween
this
wrap,
from
no doubt.
people that never wanted to do tumblers.
I didn't buy this wrap. I designed this one myself.
Nice.
nice.
That's the way
Well,
to do it.
Yeah, I've started looking at things from a little different perspective recently. I never did photos because I was terrible at them, but that's not really the way I need to look at it. I need to keep messing with them. You know what I mean? It's hard to find time to do it, but I'm going to start doing a whole lot more of that other stuff and incorporating it into some of the content that we have. Like I designed, with the exception of using a box generator, a little custom box to hold some little mini Tesla coils, you know, and did some
And
stuff like that.
I'm
So
glad you said that correctly.
how would it how would it be incorrect?
If you said it quicker, it sounded a little sketch.
Dirty?
Yeah,
A Tesla coil?
it
Yeah.
could have gone really bad.
So, I built a box for the Tesla coil.
Do you walk
So
around with that on?
yes. So anyway, I'm going to publish that or put a little something together about the workflow and stuff like that, you know, so I can start looking at optimization and things like that.
Yeah, and it's you know
Speaking,
what it's funny when you talk about workflow and everything, and because everybody's got their setups different, it is hard to try to figure out a workflow that there is no such thing as our workflow sure as hell doesn't work for you, and probably doesn't work for Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely not a one size fits all situation. It's quite the opposite usually. So, and it, you know, we have some clients that have 4 machines and they run Mylar stencils. They cut Mylar, 7 mil Mylar all day long. That's all they do, you know, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then some people do, yeah, more bespoke stuff, a lot of like what you guys do, pretty much anything, you know. So
What was
there's a lot of,
today? 51-130 had a chessboard being engraved. The 3580 was running tumblers, and I had the UV running those.
Can
yeah, yeah. So that's a testament to people that want a combination machine, like say, and I think it's still a neat idea for the hobbyist or the tinkerer, one of the dual source machines that's maybe a fiber and an RFCO2,
Yeah.
you know, so that you can do that. But it's kind of like having an all-in-one TV with the VCR built in. If one of them breaks, the other one's no good, you know, or a multi-function copier. If one part goes out, you might not be able to use the rest. So it's cool to have multiple pieces of equipment, not only from, you know, a productivity standpoint, but, you know, from reliability and being able to have a backup even if you needed to and not have all your resources used up. So
The only thing we're missing is an RF tube.
yeah. Well, you got some room for a couple more lasers, don't you?
So
I
the
see a
desk
I see a
is the
fold-out table over there that could go away.
that can't. That's kind of like the shipping area.
You
The
could
desk
you
can go away.
shipping / photos.
hey, you could get a bolt, and then if you ever decided to go to a flea market or something or a craft fair, you could take it with you.
There's a good
We
machine
had
for that.
We had that thought.
I'm really digging that machine for the most transportable machine of all the ones that I've seen so far. You know, the build quality is such that it can be rugged enough to handle it. You know, I think it would be great because we get asked that all the time. You know, can we put one of these in a trailer? You know, like Jason's doing, and
Yeah.
yeah.
the
So
the Odin 22 is just a little bit bigger, and it has a stand, correct?
it
Correct.
does, yeah. Or you could
The
probably pull the stand off and
Odin 2,
make a pedestal for it. You know what I mean? But
y'all
yeah.
don't do the 22 anymore, right?
Um,
Or
I don't know. That's a Grant question. He should be here sometime.
I didn't see it on the website.
Yeah,
I saw the
I
32.
they may have some more, and I'm sure they'll get rid of the ones they have. But I think the 32 for the price difference, really, especially because those RF tubes are starting to come down a little bit. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do the bolt for what we do it for. You know, most people pay $5,000 just for the tube. You know, so yeah, it's I'm not positive on that. So
I'll talk to him.
So new to the world, but what's the major difference between the Bolt and the Odin?
Size and speed.
And a few little features like dual stage air assist. It just has a single stage, but mostly size and speed. I would consider it Odin's little brother.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we just got our Bolt last week.
hmm
Oh, cool. Congrats.
Thanks.
What do you think? What do you think about it so far?
I'm really impressed. Obviously, I don't have another laser to compare it to in person, but just I've been eyeballing Thunder lasers for like years. Bolt made me jump right away, so there's something about the quality.
Yeah, yeah. At that
It even
price
says,
point, man, you know. So
is it me or does it? I mean, again, I'm just going off videos, but it kind of looks like quality features to quality to price. Is it maybe better than the large form factor Thunders?
well, it's probably right
It-
along there with Odin, except for Odin has dual stage air and the size and space. But as far as the Novas go, that's kind of like different animals, you know, if you're comparing across the whole spectrum. Um, the
Right.
Bolt and the Odin are a lot lighter duty. They have lighter heads, so there's not as much inertia, so we can get more speed. Whereas the Novas, slamming that big hunk of a metal head around, back and forth on that gantry takes quite a bit of power and, controlled so that it doesn't get out of whack. So the Nova is more heavy duty if you look at it in those terms. Like you could probably get the gantry out of square on a Nova and just bring it and just snap it back a few, teeth and it'd start running again. If you did that to the Odin, you might break off a bearing or something, so it's a little more delicate, but as far as the quality and reliability, I don't think we don't have enough data yet, but as long as the Odin's been around, we have very, very few calls about anything on the Odins. Part of that's probably population. It's a lot smaller cross section, than the other ones.
and it's hard to tell somebody that has the Bolt that the Nova series is heavier duty because the Bolt is pretty beefy considering. I mean, if
Uh,
you compare it to a Glowforge or a X Tool or something like that, it's just going to be insane difference.
yeah, yeah. That bolt is so small. I would say you could probably drop it out of a second story window and it'd still run when you put it back on the table.
Yep, I believe
Maybe
it.
have to snap the gantry and the head back on. So
Yeah, the wife's been wanting a Glowforge forever and a day, and I think this, just from pictures, blows it out of the water.
It does.
oh
It's,
yeah,
and I think we're going to do more engraving type projects. So I think for us, the only reason to jump up to the Nova would be if we were starting to do, heavier cutting
hmm
stuff. So I heard you mention it about the difference between the controller on this one though than what's on the Novas. Like this one
hmm
seems significantly different.
it is. That's the GT5 touchscreen. And it actually has serial communications between the TL timer that's in the board in the machine as well as the DSP controller. So it's a very advanced system. It's not necessarily complicated on the end user side, but the way that it all works together, it can get a little tricky.
We're learning a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah,
Is
we
there a
are.
way
But
to unlock it for in process adjustments?
Not that I know of. Not in process. You can
you,
pause, but I don't think that you can change it like you used to be able to on the older style.
where
I
it's on
can
the
I can tell
fly.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
on the fly, changing,
yeah,
Z height or power
right.
no,
settings.
Yeah,
Is that something that the Nova series can do? Am I
yes,
mistaken there? Okay.
the Novus I think will do that. Now that's not to say that controller won't do it. I mean, but that's something where the software and the firmware and the R&D and engineering in China would have to get involved and I
Right.
think that's why they're moving to this more flexible platform, a little more complicated platform, so that they have more control over what's going on. You know, you can set the TL timer variables now in the control panel instead of being down at the machine pushing buttons and watching the digits go up. You know, things like that.
Right.
So it'll be. I don't think they'll be able to make it, you know, perform miracles, but I'm sure that they can do a lot of stuff with that controller to add features and function, you know, as we move
Yeah,
along with that kind of
and the
flexibility.
the firmware revisions are easy to do as well. So it's possible that future adjustments can be done on the fly. I mean, really quickly updating the firmware can add features. So
Yeah.
I don't doubt that that can come down the road.
Yeah, and we've already got documentation built on how to do the firmware and all that stuff. Of course, you have to get it from official channels, you know, through a support ticket typically. But yeah, as we evolve on that, you know, we'll always make any upgrades that are beneficial, you know, as far as function of the controller available. And that's something we used to not do. Firmware wasn't a thing really, you know, with the other controllers that were in the V1 Nova or that still are right now. So
And the
we're
really good thing is
adapting.
from day one with the Bolt, we've been in constant communication, and we're in constant communication with China regardless. But on the Bolt specifically, because of all the major changes, we're talking to them multiple times a week. You know, hey, you know, U.S. users use this quite often. We need it. We see this, and we need an adjustment. So I can guarantee you that if we see something we need and it's missing, we're going to try to push for it and get it done.
So Chris, I think I saw on your tutorial video, I think it was on the Tumblr video, when you sent the file over from Lightburn onto the Bolt, there was a
Hmm.
preview. Is
Yes,
is that something that has to be set up within Lightburn to do, or
it's
that's your
coming.
secret tool? Okay.
No, it's coming. It's a Lightburn thumbnail issue, and Lightburn has already fixed it. It'll be on the next update. So
Okay.
no worries about that. When the update comes out, you know, if you're a new user, which you are, it'll automatically update for the first year, and you'll have those thumbnails automatically.
Okay. Yeah, I thought maybe I was doing again. We've been
No,
running
I mean,
CNC for a long time, but new to the laser world. So
you also a Marine?
I am retired.
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
So with the what's it called, Lightburn, the thumbnail, that shouldn't be an issue at all. You got to keep in mind that these systems were made to work with Ruida controllers throughout the world and RDWorks. So we prefer Lightburn. It's easier. It's better for you, better to support. And when we launch new things, they don't always jive with what Lightburn's doing. It's a new feature for them as well. So we have to coordinate with Lightburn.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get adjusted. We use Aspire for our CNC, and so I've been finding I do all my edit work in Aspire and then just transfer an SVG in. It seems to work pretty good.
You'll be surprised at how quickly you start creating DXF files to bring into Aspire in Lightburn, because it's just so easy once you get used to it. I do Vectrix or VCarve, and I make everything in Lightburn and just transport it out.
But it's good that you already have a base of using that other software, because you can, you know, output. You don't have to have that deficit of learn as you go, because your normal workflow is still in effect. So you can kind of pick up Lightburn as you go along and see some of the things it'll do. So that's nice.
Right. I don't know if this will show up, but eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I did that 20 minutes after I got it, so I unpackaged it.
Nice. Yeah, good.
So it's
So that
pretty
means
quick learning curve in terms of just, right, like you said, the processes of setting up tool paths and you know, the colors things is slightly different, but just, you know, that picked up pretty quick. And your videos, Chris, are pretty helpful. So
good, and that's, as long as that gets people up and running and started, that's really what I'm concerned about. And as long as I'm not necessarily dumbing it down, but making the flow of how to use it easy, that's a huge concern of mine. And I'm trying to do it as I would do it. So hopefully it works, and it seems like it got you going pretty quick.
yeah, so I did I think this is a laser thing. Sorry if I'm hogging up the time here. Cut me off at any time.
No, I mean,
But
anybody that wants to ask a question, there's a raise your hand button on the bottom. Feel free to do that, and we'll hop you in. But otherwise, Jay, go for it.
so I've been doing the material tests on a couple scraps here, and even just watching videos, it's pretty evident, right? You can get the same result at various speeds and powers, right? So go
Correct.
faster, more power, go slower, less power. What's the standard or like the accepted practice on that? Keep the power low, I would assume.
Yeah, you're looking for optimum speed and lowest power so that you're conserving tube life and you're getting your job done efficiently. And that's really it.
So the glass tubes, from my understanding, you want to keep under 80% basically at all times. Is that
Not ours. No,
okay?
and not with the RFs either.
So
Use that
no.
power range.
What about speed? Is there, I guess, right? So 1,000 millimeters second, but like, there's always a trade-off, right? So I guess,
Yeah.
what
Well,
am I losing by going fast?
yeah. So it's different between a DC tube and an RF tube. So you're in the right area, with your question. On a DC tube, they fire a lot slower. So any speeds above 5 or 6 or 700 millimeters per second, it can misfire. It can miss some spots.
Okay.
With RF, you have an inversely proportional problem, which is it can fire double time. And that means you can make double dots. So you can still have the same anomaly, even though it happens on different ends of the range. But uh, on the RF tube, it fires fast enough. You should be able to run 1,000 millimeters per second, no trouble, and probably even do a photo dot by dot. I would say on the Bolt. If you try that on 1,000 DPI or 1,000 millimeters per second on a photorealistic image on the Nova, maybe not so much. So that that's a lot of where that comes in.
Yeah, I did a photo, and it's probably hard to see. I did a photo, and that was at 500. But man, that takes like 30. This is, I don't know what, maybe 3 inches by 6 inches, something like that. So I didn't know if it was worth bumping that up to 1,000, right? Like just
Yeah. And then you got to think about extend space. That can actually affect your time also, and it's different between the Odin and the Nova on those because the heads, the mass of the head is so much different, and the motors and everything. Now, something else you were talking about, and that's about right. Higher speed, lower power can yield almost the same result as the opposite. But think about dwell. So and when you're doing a photo on wood or something like that, if you try to use grayscale and just burn it away and actually have a 3D relief of it, you're going to get shadowing, but there's not going to be a lot of contrast difference typically, especially if you're going faster. So dwell time on the laser beam is important because the slower you go, the longer it's going to be on that spot. So the more chance it has to burn, kind of like running your hand over a flame. If you do it fast, you feel it, but that's about it. Slower you go, the more it burns. So typically going slower and dropping your power will give you more of a pop on the contrast. And if you're putting down a photo, that's what you want. You want white dots and black dots, basically, unless you're doing grayscale. So.
Yeah, I think wood's a hard judge.
Yeah.
I just picked up some tile to go to paint those and test out there.
Nice.
To me, that's what I want to do. The wife wants to do, the tumblers and the crafts and stuff. But I think there's a lot of potential in the photo side of it.
Yeah, and that does that leather great too. That faux leather, those RF tubes, because they're so consistent. The way you can dial them in, it's not, you don't have to try as hard, I don't think, on the UV.
No,
on
the
RF
low
tube.
range is nice.
Yeah, being able to dial it down to almost zero and still have a uniform beam signature is great.
Yeah, I think I've been down to 2% powers. That's that normal.
Mm-hmm. You could probably get down to 1 or 0.5. So depending on the tickle, there's a tickle voltage, and what it does, it pre-excites the laser, so it's almost right at the ionization threshold, so that when it does fire, it's almost instantaneous because it doesn't have to ramp up. It's already right there. So that's
you keep that with your Tesla coil.
I do. And my defibrillator. I like high voltage. What can I say?
Um, oh yeah, so I tried to cut. What's the thickest you guys have cut wood? I tried 1/2 inch and I started my first fire, so that didn't work.
It might do it with air assist pointing the right way, because the air is introduced on that more engraved centric machine at a 45-degree angle. When you're
Right.
cutting, you typically want that air to run straight down through the kerf so it blows all the way through. That's a significant part of it, I would say. It'll cut 18-inch thick acrylic
Yeah,
or 18 millimeter, sorry, 18-inch
I knew what you
if
meant.
you need. But
I tried to
have you
do like
tried?
80% with more passes, and
Mhm,
yeah, I baked it from the inside out.
gotcha. Well, have you tried CeeLo, any of the organics for thickness max test on
No,
that thing?
no. I mean, I have some cedar here that I could try. That's almost an inch thick.
Hmm.
But yeah, air assist is going
No,
to be the issue.
yeah,
And
I
Chris
know.
Myers is working on a solution for that. Hopefully, we can nail
Yeah,
that down.
I've got an Odin 22 with that same tube in it that the Bolt has, the 30-watt Zamia, and I can cut 3/8 and 1/4 inch good, but I'm using a Caliair compressor because I have a prototype Odin 22 and it has a cone nozzle, a conical nozzle. So I'm shooting the air straight through the bottom. I have an Odin 32, which of course is twice as powerful, and I do notice the difference in cutting. It's not terrible, until you get really thick. Um, but on the Odin, but that thing that Chris is coming up with, I think, is kind of neat. Or is it already out there? I was scoping your shop out the other day, but I didn't see it.
No, I haven't revised it for the actual bolt because it's different than the Odin.
Yeah.
I just haven't. I need to get back on it.
There's Grant. He
Ah,
did show
Uh,
up. That looks like a scene from The Office. So you see his fluorescent lights and drop ceiling.
It kind of looks like, was it Chris Pratt? Is that the guy?
yeah.
Yeah, I cut through 1/4 inch. That was no issue. Like
Mhm.
I think I did like 70 speed, 6 power, and it seemed to do just fine. One pass.
Yeah.
I did have we've had one issue like reoccurring as we're doing some of our test cuts with the rotary, and I wonder if you guys have stumbled across it and know what I'm doing wrong. And it doesn't
Maybe.
happen frequently, so I am sure it is me. But occasionally, right, I will get the job set up. I'll set the origin both on the machine and on in Lightburn. It will frame just fine, but when I hit start, it will spin the glass 360 degrees before it starts.
Try hitting frame first.
Yep, that
I
that was just fine.
yeah. I've noticed an issue that when it finishes the job, it stops at the end rather than moving back to its origin. And I just put in a ticket today, or I just mentioned to China today to help figure that out. So I think that's the issue. It's not
Okay.
remembering exactly where it is in position.
I
So
I wouldn't be surprised from that because I have found a couple of my jobs have right. I was set center origin, like top center origin, but
mhm.
the center it would not center the I'd be maybe a eighth to a 1/4 inch off.
Right. Yeah, we're aware of it, and we're trying to figure out a solution. But yes, you're correct. It seems to not rehome or reorigin itself.
Is there on the same note? Is there? I haven't found it. A button to just make it go back to origin afterwards, right? Like
If you
a kind of
frame a home
like
button or a no, it used to be escape, but we don't have an escape button anymore. So if you frame it, it should frame out and then return to its home position. It's not.
no, it'll frame whatever the last project was. It'll frame it at that spot, right? So essentially, it's resetting my origin to the where it stopped at.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be an update of some sort,
Okay.
is what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I
Chris, you
kind
have
of
any
figured.
other solutions, or Brian?
I mean, has anyone
What?
seen that before where it's spinning it completely? It, I'm with you. It could be just a software thing because it doesn't happen every time, and I feel like I'm setting the job up the same every time.
Mm.
There's the go to origin button as well in Lightburn that may help you out. There's also the return after a job is complete, where it's supposed to return to. Typically, that's for X and Y, and we've seen that do some weird stuff even on the non-bolt machines, where if that's not set to, I think, return to origin, it does some odd things on the rotary axis stuff.
I'm not getting much luck with those buttons within Lightburn to control the laser. Send obviously works, but like the frame button, I haven't got to work. I haven't tried, I guess, to go to origin one, but
Now, you're not going to frame a rotary job from Lightburn.
well,
Right.
yeah,
You can only,
right.
but yeah, frames are working good on my end.
Okay.
And, but I mean, I haven't tried to go home or go to origin. I assume that's part of the controller, and it should function. I use them on the Nova all the time.
Yeah, I'll mess around with it tomorrow to see if I can find out if one of those things will return it back to its center, because I use center on almost every tumbler I do, and you know it's going to its zero and then going to the end of the job and then just stopping and staying there. And I needed to come home as well, so I'll see if I can figure that out.
What's the thought process? I'm doing center. I'm doing top center only because then I can measure from the top of the cup to where I want the top of the graphic.
I try to center the graphic in between the top lip and whatever logo is there. So I find it easy just to measure that distance and put it in the center. That's really the only reason.
Now, in a bigger picture thing, center is good if you have error. Because you're expanding out in 4 directions, you're going left, right, up, and down away from your origin point. Whereas if you use, say, a top left origin, everything goes to the right and down. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you had error, if it was, say, 1/8 of an inch, it's all to the right. But if you do center, it's a 16th to the left and a 16th to the right. So it looks pretty good, right? Because you split the distance to both directions. So when you start doing jigs and other things, that can be handy to know, because somebody will lay out on an 051 bed, I set my origin in the top left corner of my jig. By the time it got 51 inches over and 34 inches down to the bottom right, you were off a 1/4 inch.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned that one with CNC. I guess I didn't think to apply it.
What's up, Grant?
This conference will now be recorded.
When I start talking, you stop recording.
I hit the wrong button. I was trying
We
to
never
unmute
know what
myself.
you're gonna say.
Tommy, I know what you're talking about with the autofocus in the new bed with the rotary.
It's, it is what it is. I kind of
just need like a little sheet to set the rotary on. Which I guess I could do that.
Or you could take out the screws and flip it for rotary and then flip it back for regular.
But it kind of shimmies a little bit.
It's not bad.
You're saying unscrew the bed?
Yeah.
Had they drilled halfway through and countersunk both sides,
Grant,
you could invert it.
Grant.
Ooh. It would be neat to have tapped holes on one side, and the slots on the other. And then they could be reversible.
So the other day, we had a demo for y'all, and the gentleman is wanting one of the Auroras. Well, he's got contacts that can make the actual beds, so he's having one made when he orders the Aurora. I'm like, you let me know when you get it done, and I'll order one with it.
He could probably sell them on Etsy.
But like, if you could do it with a 1/4 inch piece of plywood. I mean, or anything, just to kind of to stabilize it. I got a little frustrated, and I think Grant probably just learned this. When you go to slide the whole thing to autofocus, you drop.
Yep.
But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I absolutely, that's right now, other than the tumblers, that's the most used machine in the shop.
The
Nice.
other option, I guess, would be a workaround would be to focus flat, take a measurement from the base to the lens or one part of the head, and then just manually focus. Just put a ruler up. I've seen that guy that has the chain that hangs down. And
Hmm.
you drop it until it hits the chain, and that's supposed to be it. So I mean, you could hang a string with a
I made
fishing weight on
focus.
the end or something. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I used my other tools to make the focal stick.
You can't say focal stick very fast either, or we may have the same incident as we did with the Tesla coil box.
When I was first getting on, you guys were saying something about a V2. Is the large format getting an upgrade or an update?
The Nova's V2 will have that GT5 touchpad on it, and a little bit different focus system, and a little bit different TL timer board with an integrated maintenance board. So there's lots of
You're talking my
And
language.
under the hood stuff.
Yeah.
and you'll have the air pressure sensor
Yep, air pressure
built in.
sensor. Hmm.
So a couple of upgrades.
Glad I waited for the larger machine then.
Well, I mean,
It's
the
not.
V2 Novas could be a little while out.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll stay happy for a
Grant.
while here. Looks good.
I got her. I got her.
Oh, family photos.
That's the tech support department.
Chris is the tall one, I guess.
Relative to you two, yeah.
It's true. Lucky it's being recorded.
Right?
Yeah.
So we stumbled upon probably something you guys already knew, but we were practicing engravings and kind of jacked up the focus because the board canted as it was going. User error. But what essentially did was it defocused it by 0.8 millimeters, and when we engraved, it got no color but depth. Is that a pretty
Yeah.
common yeah?
These things are so good at burning away material. Sometimes you have to fake them out to get char. So I'd believe that would happen if you're focusing into the material. I can see
I figured
where.
it out actually.
Did you?
The,
Okay. It
the
may be worth doing
lowering
a ramp test on there and dialing that thing in and seeing just exactly where the focal point is. I think that's about the same for the other machines, isn't it, to do the ramp test on those. So,
Yeah, we've intentionally been defocusing it. Well, I say defocusing, right? Because we haven't done a ramp test, but from the autofocus, we've intentionally been lowering
yeah.
the bed down after.
Now, historically, our autofocus is pretty on. I mean, that's a nominal value. Like speaking on the Nova, 6 millimeters. For the stock lens, that's a nominal value. It could be 4.5. It could be 6.5 or 7. I see the 4-inch. I've heard reports of them being way out sometimes, way past 10 millimeters. But the bolts and the Odins with these optics, they seem to be like pretty spot on. I'm sure there's a tiny bit of variance. I even noticed when you take the thumb screws loose to take the lens out and put it back in, there's just a little bit of play there, which may or may not be substantial, when you're tightening it up. So I always try to hold down on the whole fixture while I tighten up the screws, just so it's the same way every time. So, and that may not even make a difference. That's just something that I noticed, but it doesn't take
It does
much.
look like Chris Pratt
Yeah,
there.
it doesn't seem like I'm losing quality, right? And I don't know how far out of focus I got to get to, be able to see that drastically in a small engraving. But
Yeah.
we actually prefer the non-burnt look, right? Like the non-charred look. So it took us about we messed up and was like, oh, we like that setting, and didn't realize that we had actually made a mistake. And then when we tried to recreate it, it didn't work. So we spent about a half a day playing with settings until we figured it out.
Trying to make the mistake again.
Trying to
Yeah.
make the mistake again.
Been there, done that, and got a T-shirt a couple of times.
I mean, you mentioned the lenses. Is there any reason to ever change lens size on the Bolt?
Yes.
And And is there
on
also?
the bolt? Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, especially for the 4-inch, just to like, the only way that I was able to do the Stanley Cup was with a 4-inch lens,
Okay.
because you have a longer throw on that beam, so you can actually put it further out of focus and it still carry through or still be able to produce a burn. So
Right, because it's like
there's
an
a couple
hourglass
of good
shape.
reasons.
Understand that
Yeah,
right? The beam is kind of hourglass shaped.
right. But that center part of the hourglass is going to be really, really small on the 1.5, and it's just going to expand greater as you go into the larger lenses where you have usable power from the beam.
Okay. Is the 4-inch lens available?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not on the Econ, but we should be able to get you one.
Okay.
2.5 is a pretty good in between as well. Grant, we have all those, right? Yep. Okay, we got them all, so they're there.
We just received them like yesterday, so I think Aubrey's working on getting them on the parts.
Okay, I see them now. I don't think I saw them originally, but they're on the page now. Yeah, it seemed like, right, because 1.5 is really for the fine work, right? Like nice engraving, photo
Yeah,
stuff,
very,
right?
very fine detail. And you can also use the other lenses to increase or decrease your time. It's a larger dot size, so you can fill that area quicker. Kind of like defocusing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, you may get a darker burn also
Mhm.
with a 4-inch because you've spread that beam density out a little bit.
So it would probably be beneficial on things like tumblers to get away from the 1.5, right? Because I'm not getting we're not going for super fine detail like photos.
Right. That would be my
Yeah.
recommendation because any power that you're not using is being reflected by that metal, and can be going back through the beam path backwards. So,
So today, with a specific logo that we had for our client, we discovered that we had to switch to the 1.5 lens versus, and this was in our Nova series, versus the 2-inch so that we could get the detail we needed in the logo. So just, and
Are
it
you
didn't
normal?
really,
Are
go
you
ahead.
normally using 2-inch then for most of your?
Yeah, for most everything and for most of the tumblers, I've started doing some of those hideous 40-ounce wraps, and I use my 4-inch. He bought me a second 4-inch lens so that I can have one for each machine now. They can both do their things, so that I can do those giant cups too. Today was the first time we've ever needed the 1.5 for a tumbler. I was very glad we had it.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to pick up a couple different lenses and play around.
It's
It
definitely
gives you a
nice.
lot of flexibility, for
Yep.
sure.
And that's the key from us here with 4 different machines. The flexibility is what you need. If you've only got one machine and that's what you're focusing on, make it as
Versatile as you
versatile as
can.
possible.
Yep.
It may cost more money, but in the long run, it truly is worth it when you can just pop new lenses in and out, and now you're going from whether it's cutting to doing photos.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and they're a lot cheaper than another machine.
Yes, that's true. It's a good point. We
So I
got a
wonder if
couple
that
of other
4-inch
people in here.
lens then would go toward the half-inch stuff then.
What was that? Sorry, I missed it.
So I almost wonder then if the 4-inch will make it through half-inch stuff, half-inch wood.
It's going to carry further, so it should. The problem you're going to have, again, like we discussed in the beginning, is the air.
Yeah.
You found real quick that you're going to set a fire. It's just getting the air where we need it and the amount of air that we need. I mean, we're working with a piano wire as opposed to, a boat, a boat tether. It's going to be a lot easier to cut through these materials with that. It's just the other complicating factors.
Hey, well, it shut down the machine pretty quick, so that safety feature works.
Oh, really? All right. So you tested our our fire warning system, huh?
Just as I was getting up, because I was watching, I had the camera up on one screen as I was working a project in Lightburn, and I was like, that doesn't look right. And just as I stood up, the machine turned off, and I was like, oh, it's on fire. That's why.
I don't think I have a buzzer on mine. That was an addition, wasn't it? That little crazy buzzer they put in there.
I don't know if I got that either.
I don't think it buzzed. It just turned it off.
What you doing there, Grant?
I don't even know how to explain this. That was supposed to be a Texas Rangers logo.
I don't know what that
Are you
is.
trying to make it black? Or
No, it's not even that. It's supposed to be a circle. It engraved everything backwards, the different sections. I don't know. You can't really see it.
which
Do you have it grouped?
did you?
Did you select everything?
The whole image is inverted.
And it's broken up.
It's like your accent. Well, no, this is Lightburn, so you don't have to do all the EasyCAD 3 fun stuff.
Are you using the low roller or the chuck?
Low roller.
Did you flip the number 5 dip switch?
The ones that are on are 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah, but like on a Nova, if you have that backwards, you get a mirror image. It's almost like with the splits, just doing something funky. Have you confirmed? Have you confirmed the direction of your X and Y on the Galvo head are correct?
No, I just followed the article.
Well,
I will
It's
say
almost like your Y-axis is wrong.
the file is jacked up, but it engraved well.
Hey, Grant, you've got it in the machine with the motor to the right.
Yeah.
Number 5 needs to be off.
So only number 1 and 3 are to the right.
It alternates, so whichever direction they are, they should alternate one on, one off, or one off, one on.
Yep.
Look at Tommy.
Flip your number 5 dip switch to the off position, and now your image will come out correct.
Tommy.
All of Dixon's machines, because his laughing at me, Christo?
No.
Now I can't even figure out how to freaking rotate my camera. Whatever.
I love that Jason covered the damn wires, but it's a pain in the ass to get back on.
Something we were all asking for, and now,
you got what you wanted.
Oh yeah, I got exactly what I wanted.
Hey Jay, if you don't mind, put a ticket in about that the rotary.
Okay.
The more ammunition I have when I contact China and say, hey, our users are having this issue, they will end up fixing it quickly. They're very receptive, so as long as we're pointing it out, they should fix it.
That helps, Tommy. Now I just have to work on the overlap.
Well, follow my overlaps and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Cool. This is way better than it was on the first try with the first machine.
Oh, do you need a tape setting?
Is he staring at that thing while it's running?
No.
Hey, I'm 26. I'm good. I'm wearing invisible glasses.
I'm going to have to officially recommend and prescribe that you don and doff the proper PPE when in that area operating that machine without all FDA Class 2 safety interlocks in good working order.
I'm gonna be blind when I get home, but at least this rotary will be set up and working.
Hey, Grant, you have
Rod
a you have
Gutbrell.
something to write down? You have something to write with?
Yep. Hit me.
Okay. Make sure if you wrap blue tape around it, it's 3 layers of blue tape. Your speed's going to be 4,000. Your frequency is going to be 20. Your Q pulse is going to be 1, and a 0.0127 line interval.
Those are UV settings, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the 100-watt MOPA, I think.
I
You're
am.
gonna burn through.
That'll give me something to work with.
Oh, then never mind, Grant.
The overlap is what I'm gonna have to work on.
Overlap is minimal, man. But if you're down at the bottom of the taper on the tumbler, then you're gonna have an issue.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
you're
in like
spinning.
lower third.
Yeah, you're gonna have issues with it regardless.
Well,
Until the new Lightburn comes out, and then you'll be fine.
Really?
Yeah, they're having an auto. It's going to be an auto taper. So you're going to put in the diameter of the top, you're going to put in the diameter of the bottom, and then the length, and it's going to auto calculate how that taper should go. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Yeah, it'll be nice for pint glasses and 20 ounces and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh,
Real
that's
Can
nice.
so
it be
exciting.
used in conjunction with the cylinder correction?
I don't know. I mean, it's tapering the graphics, so I don't see why not.
That'd be kind of
Yeah,
neat.
it's
That's a
tapering the
lot going
graphic.
on. That's a lot going on.
Yeah. And once it tapers the graphic is done. And then you can use the cylinder correction and you should be fine.
I use Chris's Excel spreadsheet or numbers spreadsheet for the cylinder correction.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa doesn't have any questions. Kara, Bill, John, nobody's got some questions. Everybody's good today.
I got a question.
You don't count. Yes, what is it?
The overlap settings that you screenshotted in the article,
Yeah.
is that where I could start from?
I would start from there. As you get down further in the cup, because you're usually measuring the center of the cup, because that's where your logo is going to go. As you go down farther, you might have to overlap it more because those center settings aren't going to be correct anymore.
So, like, on the screenshot that you used,
Like 0.00 what?
well, it's not even that. Like, you have more. The object diameter pops up. You just got more to work with. I mean, maybe you were using a beta Lightburn when you screenshotted that, because I don't have the same options that you have.
Really? I'm always on beta, so that, I guess, is part of it.
I won't figure it out though. Don't you worry your pretty little head.
You're looking at not your split but your overlap.
Yes.
Oh,
that. Yeah, it's pretty much good now. Once I put the settings in that you have on the screenshot, it's looking good. I guess you do know what you're talking about a little bit.
I know I had to convert mine to millimeters.
The only thing that changed in a negative way is it stretched it really bad, whereas before it was pretty circular. This isn't really a webinar topic though, so sorry for stealing.
No, you'll figure it out. I know you will. If not, get Eric.
You got two hands, Chris.
Yeah, Bill and Teresa have questions.
Oh, all right. Teresa, turn on your mic. and go ahead and
I
ask, or there we go.
uh every time I log out and log back in, my I have a Mac, and it's always wanting me to update to the new Lightburn. And so I do it, but I can't ever save it. It doesn't ever save.
You have to
So it
reinstall.
yeah, it downloads, but you have to go into your downloads and double click it, and then you're gonna have to drag it, drop it into your applications folder, and then it'll copy over the other version.
Well, I think you have a choice. You can add it also to the
Right.
applications folder, or you can replace the current one, which is what you need to be doing. Otherwise, you have multiple versions of Lightburn running on your computer.
Yep.
Okay, I've
You want my
replaced it.
suggestion?
Like I've replaced it, and then it still is doing the same thing.
Yeah, it should be updating. I guess if you want to put a ticket in, we could probably log in to your computer and try to help you figure that out.
Okay.
We'll have to schedule, a 30-minute session, but we can definitely figure that out for you.
Okay, that'll work.
It should be straightforward. It sounds like there's just something missing.
Okay, sounds good.
And Bill,
Yes, got a question.
Bill.
So, how y'all doing today? Somebody
Good.
approached me regarding doing some lasering some rubber mats for some jewelry and stuff. Is there a specific type of rubber for using for lasers?
Well, I mean, people do silicone. They do traditional like rubber for stamps. What are they doing on these mats? Is it just
They
a
basically
visual engrave?
they're taking the rubber and I guess they putting against the clay in order to do a pattern, and then from that, then they put silver and stuff on it. So they
Okay, so
basically have
almost making
thin
stamps.
designs they want. Yeah, I guess probably more like a stamp. So it's be thin
Yeah.
designs that you would cut the rubber with.
Yep. Yeah, we got a couple articles about basically making rubber stamps more geared towards ink, applications, but you could probably do the same thing with just depth. Yeah, it looks like Lois is showing something.
yeah, I just we had all stamps for our business made, and a couple of years ago, because I was too lazy at the time to try and figure out how to do it myself, even though I had the lasers. And but our son now has his own portion of the business and logo and everything, and I needed to get him a stamp done too. So Tommy had ordered the material off Amazon, so I finally went ahead and engraved it and cut it with the 3580.
Is there a difference between the materials? I've seen something, I think in the article it linked out to Amazon, but they had like a gray and an orange. I don't know if there's a difference between the type of material with colors
So
related. It's just a
there's a gray that doesn't smell as bad. We've got the orange off Amazon, and it didn't smell as bad. But everybody talks about the red being horrible with an odor.
okay.
So
Okay.
And this orange was just kind of like sticky, so I scrubbed it, like people said, with Dawn Power Wash and a toothbrush, and then I actually hit it with some
Goo
like
Gone.
Goo Gone or Dissolve It, and
Mhm.
just kind of like rubbed that around, rinse that off, and then re-scrubbed it with the Dawn to get the greasy off of it. And that seemed, and then of course it's dried since yesterday, and it's not sticky anymore. So I don't know if the gray does that or if that's just like an orange that does that.
So the orange or gray, but and we don't know if which one's preferred in that respect, experience wise.
Everybody likes the gray.
Yeah, people seem to like
Okay.
the gray better.
Okay. Good. I'll give it a try. Thank you.
And awkward silence.
Well, it's almost 4 or 5 o'clock, so